The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
Welcome to the show. We've got some great interviews today, multiple correspondents in Tampa at the Republican National Convention. But before we get to that, a few stories to tell you about. If you were tired of Mitt Romney flip-flopping again and again and again and again and again on abortion and birth control, well, then you're probably going to be pretty tired by the end of this segment because he's done it again. He has flip-flopped. Now, Kaylee Joy Gray over on Daily Kos sums up the entire thing brilliantly. I have video of it for you. Let's just get into this thing, Lewis, because it's incredibly stunning. Another time for Mitt Romney flip-flopping on the same issues that he's held every position on, no position on, all positions on, and only, of course, the right positions on, and the wrong ones, and the neutral ones. Let's take a look.
Of Congressman Todd Akin's comments last Sunday, the Obama campaign is once again attacking Republicans for what they call the so-called war on women. Now, I know that you have an economic argument about jobs and opportunity, but I'd like you to deal with the social issues aspect of this specifically. How do you answer the Obama charge that they offer more support, more choice to women when it comes to abortion or rape or birth control or women's health care?
Well, first of all, with regards to women's health care, look, I'm the guy that was able to get health care for all of the women and men in my state. They're just talking about it at the federal level. We actually did something, and we did it without cutting Medicare and without raising taxes. Number one. Number two.
So you're saying look at Romney Care?
Well, I'm very proud of what we did and the fact that we helped women and men and children in our state. Number two, and we did it without cutting Medicare, which...
Wait a second, Mitt. All of a sudden now, you're back to boasting about Romney Care, which is Obamacare, except Romney Care does cover abortions, which Obamacare doesn't. Now you're back to boasting about it instead of saying that it's a bad thing and being ridiculed by your own party for what it did. We're back, Lewis. It's like that movie Groundhog Day, except every time it's different instead of the same.
Well, it's the same in that way.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So let's continue. Unbelievable what's going on here, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go.
Last Sunday.
Okay, we got to go back to where we were.
To get health care for all of the women.
Let's skip ahead here.
I'm very proud of what we did.
Okay.
And the fact that we helped women and men and children in our state. Number two, and we did it without cutting Medicare, which obviously affects a lot of women.
All right,
the way the president cut Medicare, $716 billion for current retirees, that's a real problem. And then with regards to contraceptives, of course, Republicans, and myself in particular, recognize that people should have a right to use contraceptives. There's absolutely no validity whatsoever to the Obama effort to try and bring that up. And with regards to the issue of...
Right. Wait a second, Mitt. So you understand the fundamental right to access contraceptives, but you said that you want to defund Planned Parenthood. Remember, we're going to get rid of that. We're going to get rid of that. Of course he supports contraceptive use and funding. What's wrong with this guy?
Well, I guess in theory it is possible to do both.
Right. He supports people using it. He just doesn't care that the government be in any way involved in making sure that it happens.
That's probably what he's... yeah.
And here's the last part.
Abortion, that is something where men and women have alternative views in that, or different views. We look at an issue like that with great seriousness and sobriety, and recognize that different people have reached different conclusions. But it's not just men who think one way. Women also, in many cases, are pro-life. There are two lives at stake: the child, the unborn child, and the mom.
All right, so there we go, ladies and gentlemen. Yet another Mitt Romney flip-flop on the topic of abortion. It's just one after another, after another, after another. We're bored with it. That's just bringing it to you. There it is. And then also in this same interview, Mitt Romney asked by Chris Wallace pretty directly, why not just close those Swiss bank accounts? You know what I mean? Just close them because you know there'll be political issues. And Mitt Romney saying that would be allowing other people to manipulate his life. Let's take a listen to that too.
You have taken a lot of heat about tax returns, and I want to ask you one specific question about that. You've been running for president for almost 8 years.
Right.
And the question is, why didn't you years ago, somewhere over the last 8 years, go to the people running your blind trust and say to them, let's get out of the Swiss bank accounts, let's get out of the investments in the Cayman Islands, even if it means we have to pay more taxes so we can clear the decks politically?
Well, first of all, there was no reduction, not $1 reduction in taxes by virtue of having an account in Switzerland or a Cayman Islands investment. The dollars of taxes remained exactly the same. There was no tax savings at all.
Well, let's see that.
And the conduct of the the trustee and making investments was entirely consistent with U.S. law, and all the taxes paid were those legally owed, and there was no tax savings by virtue of those entities.
But why not just go to him a long time ago and say, get out of these things, because you know...
Don't invest in anything outside the United States. I don't know whether a trust... I mean, I could have said, don't make any investments in any foreign companies, in any foreign bonds, in any foreign currency, only U.S. entities. And by the way, don't buy any foreign products. Don't have any Japanese TVs or foreign cars. I mean, yeah, I could have done that, but, you know, I did live my life.
Well, Mitt, because of your Bain Capital and actually increasing the amount of export or outsourced jobs to China, it's actually harder to get those TVs that aren't made in China. I mean, Mitt Romney himself is responsible for the situation he's joking about. Yeah, don't invest in foreign companies and don't buy Chinese TVs. Well, it might be easier, Mitt, if it weren't for Bain Capital. It might be even even if it's just marginal, it would be slightly easier to find some American products. I mean, Mitt, your own Olympic flag pins of American flags were outsourced to China. You're the reason we can't find those things, not your blind trust guy.
It's probably safe to assume that any investment he has in any American corporation, that corporation has foreign ties or has foreign workers in one form or another.
No question about it. No question about it. So there's Mitt Romney. He's not going to allow people to manipulate his life by closing those Swiss bank accounts, which show that he doesn't really believe in America, the thing his entire campaign is based on. Now, he's not going to be manipulated into showing that that he actually stands for what he says.
Now, let's just, on a side note, let's give props to Chris Wallace for actually asking this question. Now,
Chris Wallace asked some questions.
He did ask some questions.
Yeah, okay. Let's get to Paul Ryan very quickly, then I want to get to Luke Vargas and Michael Shore. Paul Ryan said something that should force him off the ticket altogether, but you probably didn't hear about it because I don't know why, because mainstream media is not covering it. He basically said that rape is one of many forms of contraception that are out there, Lewis. In other words, there's many ways that women get pregnant. Natural inseminations and IVF, and rape is just one of those methods, Lewis, of conception. Let's get a look here at what he had to say.
Something we're talking about, and I think our viewers would love to know exactly where you stand. Specifically, you're pro-life,
oh, yeah,
Catholic,
yeah.
but specifically where you stand when it comes to rape and when it comes to the issue of should it be legal for a woman to be able to get an abortion if she's
well, so I'm very proud of my pro-life record.
Absolutely.
And, I've always adopted the position that the method of conception doesn't change the definition of life. But let's remember, I'm joining the Romney-Ryan ticket.
There you go. Okay, so the method of conception, whether it's rape or not, it's just another method of conception, Lewis. You know what? At least he's not denying that it's possible for a woman to get pregnant from a rape.
That's true.
He's at least considering rape a method of conception, which goes beyond what Todd Akin even said, because you can't get pregnant if you're raped. The body shuts the whole thing down, ladies and gentlemen.
So he's not denying science.
He's at least not denying science there, no. He also went on to say rape is rape. So which is it? Rape is rape or rape is another method of conception? I don't know.
Both.
And by the way, saying rape is just another method of conception, isn't that the same thing as saying suicide is one of the many ways of getting rid of a cold? If you have a cold, you can wait a week, you can take vitamin C, or you can kill yourself. In any of the cases, you end up without the cold. Irresponsible, completely irresponsible, ridiculous comment to make.
It is ridiculous and irresponsible, but only because of his angle, right?
What angle is that?
Well, I mean, conception can happen from a rape. Okay.
Yeah.
That happens.
Yes, he's admitting that.
Okay. But we agree that can happen.
Yeah, we agree on that.
Okay, all right. I mean, that's basically all I'm saying.
Okay, last thing on Paul Ryan. I got an email from Jordan saying that I look like Paul Ryan. Let's put that picture, that side-by-side that Jordan sent us up Natan. I know that we have that thing tucked away somewhere. I really don't see it. I have to tell you, I just don't see the comparison at all. And I'm insulted that such a comparison would be made. Don't you think?
You look more like him than Rush
like you.
Limbaugh, for sure. But I wouldn't say there's a strong resemblance.
Let's agree on this, Jordan. The similarity between myself and Paul Ryan is more noticeable than between Condoleezza Rice and Paul Ryan. That I will agree with.
All right.
There we go. Okay, let's get into talking to our correspondents on the ground in Tampa. Let's start with Luke Vargas. Spoke to him just a few minutes ago. All right, it is day 2, or kind of day 1 of the Republican National Convention. Joining us is Luke Vargas from Talk Radio News Service, one of our correspondents on the ground in Tampa. Luke, is this the most boring Republican National Convention maybe in history? I mean, is anything going on there?
If I had known that there wasn't going to be more than 33 seconds of day 1 of the convention, maybe I would have just taken the whole day off and tried to catch up on some sleep. But yeah, it's been very quiet around here.
What was your day like? Like what has happened in the 24 hours since we last spoke to you?
Well, I went over to the convention center, or actually the forum, at about 2 o'clock yesterday when Reince Priebus, the chairman of the RNC, came out and called the session into order. And pretty much before you even realized what was going on, he was hitting the hammer again, and the convention was over for that day. Then he did a little extra stuff where he pointed out the debt clocks that we talked about yesterday, and very quickly it went from being something you could actually understand. It went from 14,000 to 280,000 to 700,000, and then very quickly there's so many commas in that number that it's really hard to even fathom what that amount of debt would mean. So that feature sort of got old pretty quick in my eyes.
All right, so the Republicans going a little bit comma crazy, which is interesting because punctuation and grammar not always the big thing, as we know with that Romney Inertia app. So what's on tap for today? I mean, finally today it looks like the big speeches will start. I think, is Chris Christie the keynote of today?
Christie's the keynote, but things start, he won't be coming on until after 10 o'clock, but the convention gets underway at 2 p.m. I'm supposed to go over there and film some of the opening things. I think there'll be countless patriotic songs sung, including the national anthem and many other ones that are much more obscure. But I think it's going to get pretty boring. They have to fill up 8 hours before the real keynotes begin. So I'll probably check out of there, after 90 minutes or so. I don't think I could stomach 8 hours of that.
No, well, 8 hours is okay, because you could do 2 hours on Obama's birth certificate, and then you could do another 2 hours on the long form of that birth certificate. And then you could do another 2 hours on how guns are actually, more guns would make people way more safe. I feel like 8 hours might not even be enough to get through all the stuff.
Okay, well, if 8 hours isn't enough, then I'll have just as many hours the next 3 days. So no shortage of speakers here and lots of messaging to get out.
Okay, last thing, is there this kind of a secret or surprise speaker that people are talking about?
There is. The rumors have been that it could be anyone from David Petraeus to Sarah Palin. But no one really knows at this point who that person is going to be. But, frankly, I'm not getting the jitters, and I'm not getting too excited about this surprise. But a surprise it will be, no less.
I really hope that it's Sarah Palin. Oh, man, that would just be absolutely fantastic. I see if you can get that set up.
Okay, I'll try to do that. And it's during prime time, so there are going to be millions of eyes on this person. So, Sarah Palin might fit the bill pretty well. But, again, not too much of a surprise. Because there have been rumors it might be her for quite some time.
All right, Luke Vargas, Talk Radio News Service. I hope the next 24 hours are less boring than the last.
Thank you very much.
All right, we'll check in with you tomorrow. Thanks.
Sure.
All right, and then we, of course, also spoke to Michael Schur. Lewis, you're a big fan of Michael Schur's, aren't you? Michael Schur, of course, known from the Young Turks.
Yeah, he's good.
Hell of a guy.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So let's get right to my chat with Michael Schur, also in Tampa for the Republican National Convention. Okay, let's go back for another check-in in Tampa, Florida at the Republican National Convention. Michael Schur is with us, political correspondent for the Young Turks on Current TV. Michael, as a liberal, what's it like to be there?
I think, David, that you have to put liberal aside a little bit to kind of immerse yourself here. I think when you are a liberal, I mean, I don't mean that you put aside what you believe at all. I just sort of think you have to be do everything you can just to try and immerse yourself here and not get angry every time you hear somebody open their mouths or every time you hear somebody speak. And so that's what I mean. I think you just have to find kind of a happy place, as it were, and enjoy yourself and take it all in. And, and let your jaw drop once in a while, which it does constantly when you're in a place like this, especially when you believe what I believe about politics.
Yeah, who have you been bumping into? Any interesting conversations?
Yeah, I had an interesting conversation. I spoke to Ari Fleischer for a little while on the floor. I saw Karl Rove, didn't really speak to him very much, but someone I was with had an interesting exchange with him. I spoke to Michelle Bachmann. I oversaw a quick interview in a hallway with Michelle Bachmann where, I mean, this is the kind of thing where, like, if you just are a liberal all the time, you want to walk up and punch some of these people in the face, even if you're a liberal. You know, it's hard to imagine liberals punching people. It's like Woody Allen saying that he was beaten up by Quakers as a kid. When you see Michelle Bachmann saying, you know, this is an election about whether or not you want $8 gas or $2 gas, you know, what do you say to that? I mean, you look at it and you shake your head, and you're, what? But afterwards, what I did is instead I had them take a picture of Michelle Bachmann and me. So I had this picture that I took with Michelle Bachmann. She didn't know who I was, and I shook her hand and said hello, and that was that. I've seen John Sununu here, Artur Davis. I've spoken to political commentators like David Gergen a little bit yesterday. I spoke to Clarence Page this morning. I mean, you're bumping into people constantly here, and there are elected officials and then Republican yahoos everywhere.
What's your sense of, for example, the non-conservative, non-Republican constituency there? I mean, is it mostly just journalists, or is it also, are there people who are just not really in line with the Republican Party that are hanging around?
Yeah, you know, there are, and they're coming from different fringes. I spoke to somebody yesterday from the Tea Party by accident who was there.
It could only be an accident.
It could only be an accident, but you know, they said to me, you know, of course we're going to vote for Romney. You know, we were never not going to. We just want to make our statement clear, and I think that's one of the great sort of takeaways from these events is all the talk leading through the primaries. Are the conservatives going to come out? Will they vote for somebody like Mitt Romney? You know, they're not motivated by their candidate. They're motivated by the opponent. And the sort of the unifying factor here is they don't like President Obama and they don't want him to be president anymore. So when you see that, you see those outliers, even the sort of what we grew up on thinking are mainstream Republicans, the George H.W. Bush type of Republican that are here and are represented at this convention. You know, they still want Mitt Romney to win. And in many ways, he's their type of candidate, even though their party has gone away from them.
Very quickly, talk a little bit about the importance that you're feeling about Ann Romney's speech there.
Yeah, David, that's a big part of what's happening here. Even in the lead up to the convention, talking about making it shorter or longer, extending to Friday, reducing to one day. The main thing they wanted to make sure that got primetime play was Ann Romney. It's why they moved her in the first place, because the network said they weren't going to cover her Monday night. Monday got canceled. They moved her to Tuesday. They were then thinking of moving into Thursday. She's on Tuesday night. The reason she is so important is because they want her to soften Mitt Romney, to make Mitt Romney appealing to women. There's a huge gap, even in the state of Florida here. Obama's up 4 points, but the margin between women in Florida is so big. They feel like they can make up ground among women voters.
All right, so tonight we're going to be watching Ann Romney. We're going to be watching Chris Christie, who I think won't be on until after 10 p.m. We'll be instant fact-checking those speeches. And then hopefully tomorrow we can check in with you again. And hopefully there's more activity in the next 24 hours than there's been so far.
Yeah, I would say it's inevitable that there will be. Even if just slightly more than nothing happens today, it'll be more activity than we've had so far. So I wouldn't worry about that. And I love being on the ground here, reporting back to you guys. If I find any good nuggets, too, I'll let you know during the day.
All right, Michael Schur, political correspondent for the Young Turks on Current TV. We'll take a break. We'll be back with plenty more after this. Stay tuned.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com. Welcome back to the David Pakman Show.
Nancy L. Cohen is joining us. She's an historian, also author of Delirium, The Politics of Sex in America. Nancy, for the last week or two, we've been talking about Todd Aiken's comment about legitimate rape and, of course, the body shutting the whole thing down and all sorts of other incredible things that the body's able to do. We also talked about Paul Ryan's comment about rape for him is one of many forms of conception. Now, as shocking as these comments have been, you have made the point, which is a very good point, which is that this rape talk is not really new in the Republican Party. It certainly is not something that came up only in the last 2 weeks. Tell us about it.
Exactly. Well, this is, I mean, it's surprising to hear national candidates, a vice president for a major political party talking like this. But really, no one should be surprised. The Republican Party has been taken over by extremists. We know that. But this anti-sex, anti-women, anti-gay extremism is the main mission of the Republican Party, and it's the result of 40 years of grassroots organizing by people I call sexual fundamentalists, whose goal is to take us back to a time when birth control was illegal. It was illegal in every state to be gay, and, you know, women weren't equal.
So I want to push back a little bit on the idea that it is really the main goal of the party, because I've kind of identified, some people think it's more than three, but I've kind of identified three wings of the Republican Party, so to speak. You've got the Mitt Romney pro-business, I want low taxes type, and then you've got the religious social conservatives, and then you've got the kind of Tea Party, pseudo-anarchist, we just really care about freedom wing. I think what you're saying is very accurate, but I don't know that I would apply it to the Republican Party as a whole, but really specifically to that second group, the religious social conservative.
Yeah, I would say I agree with you and I disagree with you. One, I would say that, yes, the money powers, the 1%, have very specific goals that they want to get out of Mitt Romney. He's a perfect candidate for them. But let's face it, they're 1%. You know, maybe a few more percent that vote with these people. So no matter what they want, they can't control a political party and they can't win a national election without aligning themselves with others. So where I slightly disagree with you, and this is the relationship between the Tea Party and the religious right, I tell the story in Delirium about how the Tea Party was little more than a rebranding of the Christian right during a very unpopular time. And so if you look at a lot of the polling on what so-called Tea Party identifiers believe, they are disproportionately against things like the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. They're disproportionately against birth control and abortion. So there's a real synergy between the Tea Party types and the religious right.
No, you make a good point, actually, and really I should know this because just last week we covered the poll where the Tea Party, only 6% of those who identify themselves as Tea Partiers think that there should be such a thing as same-sex marriage, compared to 11% of religious values Republicans, or however they described. So maybe what I described was what the Tea Party claimed to be about, but really you're right that this has been an incredibly useful way for right-wing social bigotry to kind of interject itself into something labeled as something about low taxes and freedom.
Right. I mean, Americans, you know, a widely shared value on the left and the right in America is freedom. So if you want to try to, like, you know, weasel your way back into power in America, and you're very good at political organizing, and you don't care what lies you tell, then you call yourself freedom lovers. Okay? When they're talking about putting transvaginal ultrasounds in our vaginas, I don't think that's freedom loving.
Right. No, it's one of those incredible double standards where it's all about freedom, except when it comes to be freedom about anything that's not part of the Bible or otherwise part of the religious rights agenda. Then the government getting involved is not only okay, it's absolutely necessary to maintain the fabric of the country.
Exactly.
So let's go back a little bit to the rape comments, because I'm actually a little surprised. I've started to get a lot of emails from women, messages on Twitter, etc., saying, I appreciate that you've been covering the Aiken comments and the Ryan comments, etc., but we really got to move on because we're getting sick of it. And I was actually surprised to hear that from a lot of self-described progressive women. What do you make of that? I'm not passing any judgment or making any analysis. I'm merely passing along to you the messages I've been getting. Are you surprised to hear that?
Well, I'm a little surprised to hear that. I guess from my perspective, I spent the last couple years writing a book about this kind of radical, far-right religious fundamentalism at a time when the press was talking mostly about freedom and taxes and deficits and stuff. And so what I realized is, and looking over the polling from the last 40 or 50 years, the social issues really are winning issues for progressives and for Democrats. Now, we've been told by conventional wisdom that these alienate mainstream Americans. That's not true. I talk about that a lot. So I got one email like this from a close friend of mine who is a progressive but doesn't spend a lot of time following politics. And she said virtually the same thing. I wish these right-to-lifers would just shut up. We want to get to the real issues. So I think the problem is, the dilemma is that, we want to see the middle class rebuilt. We want to see fair taxes. There's a lot of things on a progressive agenda that really do seem more important than fighting battles that should have been won a long time ago. But I guess what I would caution is that when we assume that those battles have been won, the sexual fundamentalists come back into power, because they don't stop talking about this among their constituency. And it's really important that a lot of the people who weren't paying attention to politics over the summer are aware of what today's Republican Party is really about, that the extremists are running the show, and that Romney is fully on board with this really extreme agenda.
Absolutely, and we saw that incredibly, happen with contraception, and abortion never seems to go away. So if you stop talking about it in a way, you are putting yourself in a risky position, because the other side can control the message. Nancy L. Cohen, author of Delirium, The Politics of Sex in America. Really great to have you on today.
So great to be here. Thanks, David.
Okay, we'll take a break. We'll be back with plenty more after this.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com. Welcome back to the David Pakman Show.
Want to say hi to a very special David Pakman Show member of the day, made possible in part by liberalbias.com. When reality doesn't live up to right-wing ideals, there's only one explanation. Reality obviously suffers from liberal bias. Find out more at liberalbias.com. Today's new member of the day, Diana Lowe. Thank you, Lewis. I thought what did we agree on? When I say the name, you start the music?
Usually.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
We really didn't agree on anything.
No, that's just my shtick.
In any case, Diana Lowe, thank you. Thank you for being a David Pakman Show member. Couldn't do it without you or any other David Pakman Show members.
That's right.
That's
Much
it, Lewis?
appreciated.
Anything else you want to say?
No, I could play more music, but unnecessary.
No, I have a bunch of stories to get to. An anti-gay activist and Proposition 8 donor has been charged with sexually assaulting young boys. Wait a second, an anti-gay pedophile? I thought the anti-gay nuts said that it was gay men who were the pedophiles. Oh, I guess it doesn't always happen that way.
No. If you want evidence of this, just look to the church.
Caleb Douglas Hess, a longtime anti-gay activist, donated money to California's Proposition 8, which is an anti-gay proposed legislation. And this is the most disturbing part. Elementary school teacher. He was taken into custody after admitting he had inappropriate contact with young boys. He was a teacher for the Morongo Unified School District for 25 years. Most recently, he was teaching first grade at Friendly Hills Elementary School in Joshua Tree. A longtime youth volunteer with the incredibly anti-gay Evangelical Free Church of Yucca Valley. He's confessed to sexually abusing, quote, numerous underage boys, which authorities believe occurred between the early 80s and as recently as a week ago. Investigators say that he met the majority of his victims during overnight outings with a youth group at the Evangelical Free Church. I mean, this man is the poster child for how these things happen. And they are happening, again, the overnight church groups, presumably someone the parents trusted their kids to be around. It's very sad and disgusting.
You can't trust anybody, really.
No, but
just don't assume.
Particularly not anti-gay nuts. During his arraignment, he recanted his confession and he changed his plea to not guilty. Forget about the link between homosexuality and pedophilia that hate groups like the Family Research Council and so many others want you to believe exist. Let's look at the link between anti-gay bigotry and pedophilia. And you know what? I find, as we talk about rape being a violent act, much more so than it is a sexual act, I believe that pedophilia also in great part is not so much a sexual act, but an act of violence or an act of just an act of illness, I think we need to look at anti-gay bigotry also as something that is both violent and indicative of mental illness. That's the door I think we need to open next. It's only logical from these stories.
Yeah, well, I'm sure there are studies being done on that as we speak, but
I wish I could say I was surprised.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you are an anti-gay nut and you like your children hanging out with other anti-gay nuts, be very, very careful about that. I don't know what else to say. It's a disgusting story.
It is.
A pediatricians group, the American Academy of Pediatrics, has announced its first major shift on circumcision in more than a decade, deciding that boys, flat out, are better off circumcised than not, and that the benefits clearly outweigh the risks. Now, this is something that's gone back and forth over some time. This is the first revision since 1999. Now, in 1999, the Academy backed away slightly from circumcision. At the time, they concluded there wasn't clear evidence for or against circumcising. Then, the popularity of circumcision actually did decline, Lewis. Only about 56% of newborn males are circumcised since that time. I'm surprised at how low that number is.
Yeah, me too. See, but I thought this was old news. I mean, I've been hearing for years about the risks of not circumcising your child.
I get a lot of emails from people saying that they want me to talk about the brutality of not the insect world, like the Krakatoa Metal Band album, but the brutality of circumcision.
Yeah, so brutal.
Now, here's the new information, or the confirmed information. Number one, circumcision helps baby boys pretty much immediately, reduces risk of urinary tract infections during the first year of life by up to 90%, which is significant.
Oh, by the way, urinary tract infections can be fatal.
In children under 1.
In anyone, if it goes up to your kidneys and eventually shuts them down.
Or in certain cases. Also, circumcised males less likely to get infected with a long list of sexually transmitted diseases over the course of their life, drops the risk of heterosexual HIV acquisition by about 60%, drops the rate of HPV and all sorts of other infectious diseases, and also reduces the chance significantly that the man will spread HPV to the wife or girlfriend, which of course can lead to cervical cancer in women. So very clear here. Now, what do the critics say? Critics, of course, are unconvinced. They say male baby circumcision is the same as female genital mutilation. Now,
I've never heard anything that stupid in my life.
A lot of people make that comparison, Lewis.
Well, they're all idiots.
Oh, wow. Lewis taking a big stand on this. So the critics argue that the scientific data is questionable, that studies on HIV reduction have only been done in Africa, where AIDS is much more common amongst heterosexuals. Critics are saying that too many botched circumcisions leave boys damaged for life, so on and so forth. The bottom line from the medical group is that the right call is circumcision. Very controversial. Natan, what do you think about this?
Yeah, I don't know what to think about this. I recognize that some people view it as genital mutilation, and in the literal sense, it's hard to argue otherwise. At the same time, given all the positive health benefits and the long tradition of doing this, and the fact that it really doesn't hurt the baby in any significant way, I'd have to be in favor of it.
Well,
however,
some people say that it does traumatize the baby, that pain at such an early age traumatizes the baby in ways that simply affect the baby's personality throughout their entire life.
By that standard, all Jews and Muslims have that issue, which some people might agree with, especially
maybe this is responsible for Jewish neuroticism. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
What about Muslim neuroticism?
Well, I'm not as
that does not exist as far as I know.
I'm not as familiar with it.
Right.
Okay, so send me your thoughts. I know this will be a controversial topic. Before we take a break, 4 Army soldiers based in southeast Georgia killed a former comrade and his girlfriend to protect an anarchist militia group that they formed that has been stockpiling assault weapons and plotting a number of anti-government attacks. What do those anti-government attacks include? Number 1, taking over an army base. Number 2, killing President Obama. Nice guys. Nice guys. Right-wing terror, right-wing domestic terror. This is a group called FEAR, which stands for Forever Enduring, Always Ready. Sound like a very nice group of guys. Where's Fox News on this? Where's Rush Limbaugh? Where's Hannity on this one? Where is everybody? I don't know.
And how many? 4 people were going to take over an army base with a bunch of assault rifles? I mean, I'm assuming they can only hold 2 at a time, and then kill the president.
4 Army soldiers have actually been prosecuted, but that doesn't tell us how many people are actually in the group.
Gotcha. Okay.
So let's explore FEAR. People always ask, Where are the examples of right-wing domestic terror? They don't know, even though we talk about them just about every other week. Here's another one. Fear. Forever enduring, always ready. Take over an army base. And, of course, kill the president. Fascinating.
Fear. Great video game.
I'm not familiar with it.
It's a good one. Yeah. But apparently the terrorist group, not so great.
There you go. All right, let's take a break. Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/David Pakman Show. We're live on YouTube Monday through Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. People are chatting. We're in the chat room during the breaks. Please join us live, 2 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Thursday on YouTube. We'll take a break. Back after this. Stay tuned.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com. The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
Welcome back to the show. Please support The David Pakman Show by becoming a member of The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com/membership. A sex-crazed Angelina Jolie lookalike forced a taxi driver to have sex at knife point with her twice and then stabbed the taxi driver when he refused to go a third round. This is a Romanian taxi driver who's claiming that a sex-crazed Angelina Jolie lookalike stabbed him when she was a passenger and then refused to satisfy her for a third time. Now, Natan, why don't we have the picture of this woman up? There we go. So you decide whether she looks like Angelina Jolie or not.
Pretty low-res picture.
Apparently, she's obsessed with Angelina Jolie and believes she's a lookalike. This is Luminita Perejok. She's 30 years old. She had already forced the taxi driver to, at knife point, to have intercourse with her and to perform oral sex. The taxi driver is claiming that she asked him to help with her bags. Once inside the apartment, she demanded sex. When he refused, she pulled the knife out, forced him to undress. My real question is, under situations like that, how was he even able to perform? That's the real shocker.
I don't know. I guess she must be really attractive.
He says that he is being ridiculed locally because of what happened, and that people are just saying that it's all just an incredible story. And now the interesting question is, will this be rape? In other words, did the woman rape the man? And if so, will that even really be a factor, given that if you stab someone 12 times, you're probably going to be charged with attempted murder, aren't you?
Yeah, I would assume so. I mean, I think, right? I mean, stabbed 12 times?
I would think so. The way that Mr. Stan escaped is that he barricaded himself into a bedroom and he dialed 999 on his mobile phone, which I think is the equivalent of 911 in Romania. I don't know. Fascinating stuff. Has this ever happened to you, Louis, where people have demanded sex at gunpoint or knife point?
No.
And then have you ever demanded sex at knife point or gunpoint?
Nope.
Have you ever seen sex demanded at gunpoint or knife point?
Maybe in a movie, not that I can remember.
Okay, fascinating.
Yeah.
See, the thing is, everybody knows to check for guns when you let your date up to your apartment. It's the box cutters that nobody checks for. Next thing you know, somebody pulls out a box cutter.
Yeah.
And they use that to demand sex.
And you can forget about metal detectors in your place because they can use those fiberglass or porcelain knives. Sneak right by you.
Shocking stuff. So anyway, there you go.
Gotta be careful.
That's not a headline you hear often. Angelina Jolie lookalike forces taxi driver at knife point to have sex with her.
You can't write this. Truth is stranger than fiction.
Hey, have you been following the Lance Armstrong story?
Yeah, pretty crazy.
Lance Armstrong is going to be stripped of his Tour de France titles, and he's also going to be banned for life from the sport of cycling. This is because of he's no longer refusing. He is no longer continuing to fight drug allegations by the U.S. anti-doping agency. He's going to be banned for life, and he's going to lose all results dating back to August 1st of 1998. Basically, he was initially accused of doping and initially denied it. At one point, Natan, wasn't his argument that he had testicular cancer, that some of the medications related to that may have shown up as if he was taking performance-enhancing drugs?
I really didn't hear that argument. But overall, this guy seems to be a sleazebag, and I think he's doing himself a disservice because he could at least maintain some semblance of believability or plausible deniability if he continued to fight it. But now, I mean, since these were stripped away, everyone's going to just assume he was guilty.
Yeah, and it is interesting because the bottom line is, it just seems like he just didn't earn, though he was doping. So he broke the rules, he doesn't get those titles. But then the counter argument I've heard from other people is, listen, anybody who wins the Tour de France, realistically, is probably doping. And what are we really getting down to here is in terms of the entertainment value, kind of the baseball argument that's made. Listen, okay, Barry Bonds was on whatever when he hit that home run record, so there's an asterisk next to it. But it's more fun when people hit more homers. But what if everybody is on this stuff? Fine, you're leveling the playing field. The issue is that not everybody is on this stuff, and it opens up a whole number of other questions. And unfortunately, I seem to think what Natan thinks, which is that I believe Lance Armstrong was doping. I think he was doping, and that's why he won all these titles. The amount he was winning by and the frequency. Is he superhuman? Maybe, but statistically speaking, more likely he's just on performance-enhancing drugs.
But they couldn't prove that he was.
No, he couldn't prove that he wasn't.
But they couldn't definitively prove that he was. I mean, it was just a constant back and forth.
Is that what it is? I don't know that that's the case. In what I was reading, I mean, okay, certainly you don't have blood samples back from 1998, but they had a number of different people on the record saying he was doping, and he was not able to prove that he wasn't. I mean, it does get into, are you innocent until proven guilty, or guilty until proven innocent? It does open that up a little bit.
So now what happens to the person who was in second place? Are they now the winner?
I don't know about that. I wonder what happens there. Maybe, I'm not sure.
I mean, I wonder what that feels like for a person, like losing, but then being told you're the winner because
Remember
of
in '98 when you finished 25 minutes behind Lance Armstrong? Yeah, you won. Yeah, we know that it's 14 years later.
I think that's actually really good, because if you think that you're going to finish, between 10 and 30, you might think, hey, 15 years down the road, maybe I'm going to get the gold for this.
Yeah. If you're going to finish second this year, just wait a few years. Guy in first might just get stripped.
Second place isn't all that bad.
All right, let's go to your voicemails and emails. You can leave voicemail 24 hours a day, 219-2-DAVID-P. Here's a voicemail related to the Todd Aiken rape comments.
David, hey, you don't think that it's possible, right, that being this Aiken guy that has been talking about rape, saying that if you rape a girl, she won't get pregnant, that might increase the rape rate, especially among Republicans, being they're not too bright? I mean, they might think something like that. You never know. I mean, look at the kind of things they think.
Okay, so this is actually a pretty good point. If you are an impressionable, conservative young man, and you hear, hey, if I rape a girl, her body's going to shut the whole thing down, Lewis, and then she's not going to get pregnant, what the hell?
Or if you're just someone who really wants to rape someone but doesn't want to impregnate them.
Yeah, you don't care so much about the illegal nature of it. You just don't want to have a baby. Maybe you go out and rape someone. It is a good point.
I would venture a guess and say that rapists are probably more knowledgeable about this than the Republican Party.
You have to assume the average rapist probably has a sense that you can get a woman pregnant if you rape her.
I'm going to agree with Natan on this one.
All right, let's take a look at a few emails on the 9 individuals who were injured by stray bullets in the Empire State Building shooting. I hate when people don't think there's any logic in less guns equaling less shootings. It's exactly what David said. It's just a mathematical thing. You can substitute the word gun with anything, and that statement will still hold true. Very, very good point. I agree with that, Lewis.
You agree with your own point?
I agree with the point agreeing with my point.
Good.
I'm in agreement. Let's put it that way. And the hit rate by police is quite low. This is a statistical fact, which is why people who own guns and think they will be straight shooters are delusional. Yeah, it's funny on Facebook. Every time there's a gun story, people start tweeting, listen, or responding, if you're properly trained with a gun, you're going to hit your target. Doesn't matter if it's the middle of the night and you're getting broken into and whatever it is, you're going to hit your target if you're properly trained.
Half of them will probably shoot themselves.
It's actually very common.
Yeah, I know. It is.
Or to be shot with the gun that is yours.
Right, right.
Maybe not by yourself.
Yeah.
And on Romney's birther joke, explain why no candidate has ever been required to produce a birth certificate until Barack Obama came along. Look it up and then tell me the birther movement wasn't race-related. I've always said the birther movement is race-related.
Of course.
And lastly, Romney made the joke to pick up any stray Tea Partiers that may be out there. He'll say anything to win, and he just might. God help us. You know what? He thinks it comes down to God, but I think it comes down to voters and activism on the ground. So don't just sit at home for the next few weeks and let this election happen without you. Very, very dangerous.
If there is a God, and it is a just God, Mitt Romney will not win.
All right. There you go. But I don't think it depends on God. It depends on you. That's it for today, Monday through Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, the live stream on YouTube. Tune in. We'll see you tomorrow. Or on the bonus show. Get that bonus show. Lewis hosts it and produces it and talks on it.
You done?
I'm done.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.